What's up, Minecrafters? KC here, and welcome to episode 9 of my modWorld series for Minecraft Pocket Edition. During the last episode, I created this snowball fountain. So if you are interested in how I did that, you may want to go review episode 8. Today, I'm going to be working on creating a knockback feature for my magic wand. And along with that, I think I might also have the ability to set a monster on fire when I hit them with knockback. So let's dig into that and take a look at the coding required. So I'm in my code editor, and to begin, I'm going to define a new function that will allow me to know when I have attacked a monster. And specifically, I'm going to check to see if that attack has happened with my magic staff. So one of the functions that's provided by the modPE engine inside of Block Launcher is a function called attack hook. And attack hook accepts as parameters the entity ID of the attacker and the victim. So when this function is called, again, there is an attack that's happened. If it is the player attacking a monster, the attacker will be the player's entity ID, and the victim will be the monster's entity ID. But just the opposite, this function can also be called if the attacker is the monster and the victim is the player. So anyway, we're going to be interested in knowing when it's the player that has attacked another entity. So the first thing I'm going to check is to see if the attacker is equal to the player entity. So I will call the getPlayerInt function. So if that's true, then I know that it is me, the player, that has attacked another entity. So I want to check that first. Next thing I want to check is to make sure, in this specific case, that I am attacking that monster with my magic staff. So I'm going to check to see if that's the item that I'm currently carrying. So I'm going to call player.getCarriedItem, which returns the item ID that's currently in my hand. And I want to make sure that that is the item ID for my magic staff. So at this point, I know I've attacked a monster, and I know I attacked that monster with my magic staff. So now we begin getting into some mathematical calculations to perform that knockback. So the first thing we're going to want to know is the current yaw of the player. So I'm going to create a new variable called yaw. And yaw is your rotation or your angle within the world. So first, I am going to call a function called getYaw, which is again a function that's provided by modPE, and that accepts one parameter, which is an entity ID. And so I want to get the yaw of me, the player, so that would be the attacker. Now, one of the things about Minecraft is we need to make a correction. And we need to add 90 degrees to our current yaw. And so I'm going to perform that here. So we have now captured that, the yaw, or the angle, that the attacker, which again is the player in this case, the angle that they are in with respect to the world coordinates. And then we have added 90 degrees to that. But effectively now that is the direction in the world that we are facing. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new variable, and I'm going to make this a global variable. The yaw function returns your angle in degrees, but we are going to need to convert that into radians. And so I'm going to create a new variable here called degrees to radians, and the value for that is pi divided by 180. So that is the formula for converting degrees to radians, or that is the multiplier we're going to use to convert our yaw from degrees into a value that is in radians. So now that I have that, I'm going to include that in my yaw calculation. So here, where I have calculated yaw, I'm going to add that into that calculation, and that is going to be simply degrees to radians times our corrected yaw value. Okay, so again, that is taking the yaw value plus 90 degrees and taking that value in degrees and multiplying it by degrees to radians, which is pi divided by 180. So now yaw represents my angle in the world, not in degrees, but now in radians. So we have that value, and now we can begin specifying the direction that we are going to knock back that monster that we have attacked. And so we're going to use the set velocity x and set velocity z methods off of the entity to do that. So we're going to call entity.setVelocityX, and we're setting the velocity of the victim here, which is again the monster that we are attacking. And what we're going to set the value of the velocity of x to is the cosine of our yaw. So if you want to know more about these trig functions, these trigonometry functions, I would suggest searching online. There's a good page on Wikipedia that describes what the cosine is, and the next function that we're going to use, sine. But basically, they are the, if you can imagine a circle with a right triangle inside of that circle, the sine and the cosine are measuring the lengths of the sides of the triangle for both the adjacent and the opposite sides. And so again, that's a lot to get into for now, but if you want to understand that better, I would certainly recommend that you look that up online, because it is good to know. And I took the time to understand this as I was building it. Anyway, so here, I think I've misspelled this. Entity dot set velocity y, and we're going to do something very similar here. We're going to set the velocity y, actually that's going to be velocity z. So we're going to set velocity z equal math.sine of the yaw. And then finally, we need to set velocity y, which is, again, the vertical velocity of the victim, to some value. And I think I want to use a small value to start with, so I'm going to use 0.4. So given all the work that we've done, the mathematical calculations that we've done, we've converted the angle of the player to radians, and then we are setting the velocity of the monster that we're attacking based upon our angle using the sine and cosine functions that are on the math object. And then finally here, we're going to call prevent default, which is important because what that does is it actually prevents us from damaging the monster when we do the attack, but it allows that knockback function to happen instead. So I'm just going to have a quick look at this and see if everything looks okay. So we're inside of our attack hook. We made sure that it's the player that's doing the attacking. In this case, I want to make sure that I'm attacking with my magic staff, and then I'm calculating the directions and the velocities that I'm going to use to knock that victim back. So that all looks good to me. So I think I will save that and then go into Minecraft. So my script loaded successfully, And now I just need to find a victim to attack. I prefer not to mess with creepers at this point because I'm not sure that this actually works yet. So I think I'll attack one of these spiders. So the spider should be knocked back in the direction that me as the attacker is facing, based upon the way we created that attack hook function. So I'm just going to attack this spider. And I do have an error here. So I have misspelled magic staff ID, so I will go correct that and then reload the game. So I've made the correction. It's a very simple typing error that I made. So now I'm going to retest that. Again, when I tap this spider, I expect it to be knocked back in the direction that I am facing. Okay, so that seems to be working well. As I'm facing that spider and I attack it, it is knocked back. Now you'll notice that the spider didn't get angry and attack back, and that's because of that prevent default call that I placed in the attack hook function. So the spider knockback seems to be working, and again it's being knocked back in the direction I am facing. So if I face it at a little bit of an angle, like this for example, and I attack that spider, you can see that it's being moved in the direction that I am facing. So that seems to be working well. I would feel a little bit better if that spider was knocked back further. So I'm going to make a change to those calculations and basically just multiply the velocity by a number so that the effect has a greater strength. So I'm going to switch back over to my code editor now and work on that. So back in the code editor, to have that knockback have a greater effect, I will simply need to multiply the velocity by some value, which again will provide a higher value to the knockback effect. So I think I'm just going to basically increase it by 1/2, so 1.5 times the math dot cosine, and then 1.5 times the math.sine values. So again, I expect this to create a larger knockback effect, so I will save my script and go test that change. So I've reloaded my script, and now if I attack the spider, I expect it to be knocked back further. And you can see that it was knocked back quite a bit more than it was before I made that change where I multiplied the math functions by 1.5. So that seems to be working well, but again, I'm not really doing any damage to the spider yet. So there's a couple of choices I could make here. One, I could have the attack subtract some health from the spider, but I think it might be a little more fun if I were to set the spider or whatever victim I'm attacking, maybe if I set them on fire. So I'm going to go back and modify my attack hook function to do that. So inside my attack hook function, I want to call a function off of the entity object called set fire ticks. Now this function is named a little bit strange. If you watched some of the previous episodes or you are just familiar with the mod tick function in modPE, mod tick is called 20 times per second. And so this is just slightly misleading, set fire ticks, because we're not passing in the number of game ticks into this function. We're actually passing in the number of seconds. So what I think I will do is I will set the victim on fire for maybe 5 seconds. We'll try that and see how that goes. And so again, we are calling prevent default, which keeps us from damaging the victim when we hit them. So as opposed to damaging them with the hit, we're going to set them on fire to do the damage. So I'm going to save that and then go back into my game. So my script loaded successfully, and now I will test this new set fire ticks function that I've added. So I expect that when I hit the spider, they'll be knocked back, but then also they will be set on fire. So I do have an error here, and again, I can see it's a simple spelling error, so I will go correct that and reload the game. So I'm back in the game now. I ended up having to kill that spider with my sword because it was attacking me and I was losing health. But I have corrected that small spelling error that I made. I misspelled the word entity, which is important. So I have a new victim here, and I'm going to attack this spider with my magic staff. And we have the knockback effect, and then also you can see that that spider is on fire. And again, because we called prevent default, the spider is not responding to the fact that it's been attacked. And so I like that effect. I could put some additional effort into that function, but I think I like this. But what I could do is I could go into that function and also damage the spider's health when I hit them with the magic staff. But I think I like just leaving the flaming effect and allow that to cause the damage to the victim. So I'm just on my healing station here, regenerating my health, and I think that it's becoming nighttime, so there will be more monsters spawning, and I think I'll just maybe venture out a bit and see if I can test this on a few more creatures. Sun's going down, the moon's coming up, so they should be spawning soon. So I'll give it a little more time, and then I will come back once we have quite a few monsters to deal with. So it's fully nighttime now, and I do have some monsters close to me. So I'll attack this zombie, and he's been knocked back and set on fire. So I can just continue doing that. And I think it takes about 3 times before zombies will eventually die. Maybe it takes 4. And there's also a skeleton over here. And I see a creeper off in the distance. So the flaming knockback seems to be working fine. So I think that's a nice enhancement to my staff. Again, if you want to understand the math behind the knockback, I would suggest a couple different things. One would be doing a search for sine and cosine. Again, you will find some articles on the internet that describe those functions a little bit better than I could during this video. And then the other thing that you might want to search for is if you search for Minecraft vector calculation, you will also find some good pages written there that describes it in a little more detail than I've gone into, and provides some other features that you may be interested in as well. So I think I'll end this episode here with a successful flaming knockback effect for my magic staff. I have enjoyed creating this video, and I look forward to the next video.